There was an interesting quote. Gene Smith, the AD at Ohio State, said a couple of interesting things, but what I wanted to bring up was the if Ohio State hosted a college football playoff game. I don't have the exact quote, but essentially what Gene Smith said was they would like to host it at Indianapolis at the indoor Lucas Oil Stadium where the Big Ten championship is played. I thought that was interesting because I feel like you hear the narrative a lot of times that the down south schools don't want to come and play up north, and it's just interesting that one of the premier schools up north is saying that they would want to play a January game indoors. Now I get it. I live in Michigan. Dre, you live in Michigan, so we understand what January in Michigan is like, or Ohio. It's close enough. It's cold, very cold. So I just thought that was interesting, and wanted to obviously get your take on it, Dre, but especially you, Mark. That's the team you root for, and have seen a lot of activity and engagement talking about Gene Smith's comments today. But Dre, what do you think about that?
I think this past November must have been very, very scarring for Gene Smith. Apparently, playing in a little bit of cold and, inclement weather has gotten a little, maybe he feels like maybe they need that to be successful because apparently, you got illnesses and also weather being the issue while in Michigan, Ohio State couldn't beat Michigan in November. So I don't know, is he trying to ensure that doesn't happen again? But whatever. Playing on. Look, that's one thing you can count out the way, right? If you're playing in a dome, you're taking weather out the way, right?
Yes, we can all agree on that.
We can all agree on that. So whatever. If you think that's just about evening the playing field and making sure that all teams can perform and do everything they want to be able to do, then I guess I get it, but it's not something that I would push for if I was in his position. I'm pretty indifferent when it comes to
So
that.
if Michigan hosted a playoff game, you would want it at the big house, I assume.
Absolutely.
Outdoor.
Absolutely. Create a real home atmosphere. To create a NFL-esque type atmosphere. I think that'll be huge. Why would you want, to no. You want that home field advantage, right? You're not going to get them on the neutral field.
Mark, what are your thoughts on it?
So Gene Smith also attached to that comment something about passing the ball, something about our quarterback or C.J. Stroud passing the ball. And so he's doing exactly what Dre said. He is connecting inclement weather, whether it be just the Michigan game, which is obviously the prime example of playing in wasn't horrible weather. We see far worse. It wasn't ideal to throw the ball, but it wasn't. We see teams throw in those conditions all the time and throw effectively. And Ohio State threw it fairly effectively. That wasn't the problem. The problem was getting pushed around all over, up and down the field on both sides of the ball. So I really don't agree with it. I don't think it's crazy to. I understand his logic. He wants having confidence in the athletes. He wants the weather to be taken out of consideration and feels that Indianapolis is close enough that Ohio State can make it like a home field from a crowd perspective, but it's not Ohio Stadium. It's not the same. It wouldn't be the same. Yeah, there would be a noise advantage for Ohio State to a certain degree, but it just takes away exactly how you set this question up. There's been this long debate over all the bowl games, postseason games, playoff games are played in domes or played in the South. Good weather for obvious reasons. It's a vacation. It's a reward for the players in addition to being a game. So that's why the games are located where they are. And fans of Northern teams have often said would love to see teams from the SEC have to play in bad weather. Well, that would eliminate that. and I just think would take away from what those games would be intended to be. If they're targeted to on-campus sites for playoff games, then they should be played on campus.
I would imagine that this is it. I mean, of course, it's a hypothetical question because that's not the case right now. But if that were to actually happen, excuse me, and let's say in 3 years that Ohio State has the opportunity to host a playoff game, I don't think there's any remote possibility that Gene Smith is not going to have that game played on campus. Because I would imagine, let's just talk Ohio, the football program, the revenue that you're going to make on a home playoff game, it would be impactful. How about that?
Are you talking about for the city? So
I'm talking just for the school, just the school, the football program first, and then we can go to the larger scale of Columbus and the surrounding area. I mean that would be unreal.
Well, maybe that gets transferred from Columbus to Indianapolis, and since it is a quote unquote home game, then Ohio State takes the same percentage of the gate and all of that. So maybe the money's not a huge difference.
Yeah. Well, I guess we would.
Although the place doesn't seat 110,000 people, I know that.
True.
Very true. Close to it.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't know. Me and Des wouldn't know about what a home playoff atmosphere is like because we're Lions fans. So we tend to only watch that.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah,
I just think. I don't foresee that would ever happen. That they would move it. I just, like you said, Mark, with number one, I think the gate. You make a good point. Like that could be essentially the gate will be equal or relatively equal, let's say. But even too for the city of Columbus and the surrounding areas. I mean, you're talking, restaurants, hotels. And when you're talking about the amount, number one, the amount of people in the fan base that Ohio State has, or we can even, transfer it to Michigan. I mean, it's not just Columbus. It's the suburbs around Columbus. It's what's the next closest big city that I can, stay for a reasonable, hotel, because obviously with, prices, things like that. What's the next closest city that I can stay and still drive back and forth? Like it just, I don't see how it would not happen.
The question is, how effective would it be? That's what I wonder too. Like, how effective would it be on winning? Like, I think about we were a 2 seed, wasn't in Georgia was a 3 seed. Would that game have been much different if we played it in the big house?
The Georgia Michigan game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Just mainly because of the type of team that Georgia is. I mean, they're a run first team. So I think they, I don't think that's going to be a huge difference for them. I think if if Michigan plays Alabama, I think that would have been more of an impact because they do like to throw the ball so much. So I don't know. I don't know how big of an impact that has on winning, but I would imagine that the tickets I don't know how that would work. If it would be just normal home game, I guess, setup where, it's mainly Michigan fans or Ohio State fans in the stadium, or if it would be kind of I don't even know if the neutral site games do like a half and half, like, certain amount of tickets are set for, Michigan fans, certain some for Ohio State fans. I don't know exactly how that happens.
So you can't picture this. It's New Year's Eve at Michigan Stadium this past December. It's New Year's Eve. Whatever the weather was that night, it wasn't whatever it was in Miami. That's for sure. Whatever it was, it's New Year's Eve at Michigan Stadium at night, and the place is packed with 85 to 90% Michigan fans. And Georgia's got their little section in the corner, and it's 23 degrees outside. I'm not saying that negates a 23-point win. That was actually, in my estimation, stronger than a 23-point win. But I really don't think there's that much separation. Let me rephrase that. I think that there is separation between those two teams. I think that the separation that we saw on that night was shown to be more than it would be if we saw them play again and again and again and again. So if Michigan had them at home with that kind of crowd, with that kind of weather, would they have more of a puncher's chance? I believe so. I think it could be huge.
I
It's
don't.
true.
I think that we've seen. I think we've seen, especially in college football, it's not like the NFL. When there is a talent gap, um, it tends to always show. So in the NFL, you see playoff teams go on the road to win just as much as teams on at home win because the talent gap it's not that big of a discrepancy in talent. But you know, would it be an initial adjustment? Sure, but you know, I think that the gap we saw between because if that's the case, then you wouldn't. Well, I guess it's a bad example because Ohio State is in a colder state. I just I've seen teams that have better talent than us embarrass us in our own home stadium in the past. So that's why it's kind of like I don't know. I mean, when the talent is that much better, I mean, it tends to always show itself.
Who's got better talent, Alabama or Georgia?
Talking about this
That's a
past
great
season?
That's
Well,
a
I,
great
I would I would say Georgia overall.
Yeah, I would say I don't know. I would say it's extremely close. But if all we had to go on was the first game, well, then Alabama beat Georgia by 17 points.
True.
So this is just I'm just throwing it out there that we see
I'll be more
rematches all the
upset, to be
time that
honest
look
with you.
nothing like the first game.
I'll be more upset to be honest with you. You talking about really ruining my New Year's Eve? If we had like, can I just think about the anticipation for that? You know, I'm all happy. Dez will probably have to contain me. Like, hey man, this be okay. Pace yourself. You know, we got a show to do later on. Don't go too far. And you know, we'll probably do a tailgate. We'll probably be at the
Yes.
Michigan Golf Course tailgating if that was the case. And I would be just on a whole nother level. And if I'll be even more excited and have more expectations. And then if that same result happened, I'll be that much more demoralized and get absolutely destroyed in the own home stadium. But that's just my me being a cynic. So whatever.
So we had this conversation during our Ohio State show, and one of the Ohio State writers asked what we thought the temperature was in Columbus for the Big Ten championship game this year. So on the date of the Big Ten championship game, what the temperature was in Columbus?
I'm gonna say 30 degrees.
51.
Bad.
That is
Cold.
that's nothing. That's fall. That's great fall weather, actually. That's perfect.
That's true. Well, what our playoff games are what roughly a month removed from that.
Yeah.
So we'd be. Yeah. I wonder what it was in January. So let me see if I can find that out.
Yeah, I'm sure it was noticeable.